My name is Ethan Parker. When I graduated from high school, I joined a local general company in my hometown. I really wanted to go to college to study something I was interested in, but my father fell, and we needed money, so I got a job to help my parents. That's why, for a few years after I started working, I hated talking with friends. I had given up my dream and started working for my parents, but it made me feel bitter that many others went to college just to have fun. Still, I only have one life, so I worked hard after high school to ensure my father could receive the best possible treatment. Thanks to my efforts, I've been able to work at the same company for over 10 years without any major issues from the management. I was comfortable in this pleasant environment, but recently, the head of my department changed. The former boss was a good person, but the new one, Mr. Thompson, is an elitist who values academic credentials above all else. Mr. Thompson, with his elitist views, looks down on me for being a high school graduate and treats me terribly. Working hard today, aren't you, Parker? Since you're just a high school grad and not much use, you've got to work harder than anyone else. Of course, I work hard every day, but could you please stop treating me differently just because I'm a high school graduate and not a college grad? What's this? A high school grad talking back to me. This is why I hate incompetent high school grads. Why did our company even hire someone like you? If I were truly incompetent, I'd understand being talked like this, but I produce results and would like to be acknowledged for that. Getting cocky for high school grad, aren't you? Usually, I just let these comments slide, but I thought things would only get worse if I kept ignoring them, so I couldn't help but talk back. Yet, being belittled just because I'm a high school graduate doesn't sit right with me. Of course, if I were a high school grad who couldn't achieve results like my colleagues, I'd understand the treatment. But I've been outperforming many college grads and am relied upon by other employees. So it's frustrating to be judged solely on my educational background. Thinking about this daily, I couldn't hold back when he said such things. I regretted speaking out in anger, but I don't think I said anything wrong. Perhaps unable to watch our exchange any longer, my colleague Mr. Enrus stepped in. I also disagree with judging solely based on education. Parker might be a rare high school grad here, but I believe he's the hardest working person. Knowing you think that about me, especially coming from you, a graduate of a prestigious university, makes me really happy. I never expected to be defended like this. I was glad. Mr. Enrus is a highly respected elite, having graduated from a well-known university. Just receiving such an evaluation from someone like him made me feel incredibly rewarded. But his words seemed to fan the flames of Mr. Thompson's anger even more. So, if a prestigious university grad like Enrus says that, Parker must be quite competent at his job, he remarked. I don't know how you evaluate, but I've been delivering results not far off from those with a college degree, I responded. Parker, you're being modest. You outperformed me in last month's sales, Mr. Enrus added. If you're that impressive, show me results that'll shut me up. If you do, I might even acknowledge you. Understood. I'll strive to surpass last month's results, I committed. Setting a goal just to surpass last month is too lenient, he retorted. I was confused by what Mr. Thompson said. Last month's performance was top in our department and had even become the talk of the company. At our company, we are set monthly quotas, and last month I achieved more than double my quota. It was incredibly busy, of course, but I felt a sense of accomplishment since the company recognized my efforts. Declaring to surpass last month's results was quite a bold move for me, but I thought it was necessary to silence Mr. Thompson. So, I made that statement, but being told it was too lenient was a shock. Surely, every employee aware of my performance last month must be thinking the same. In the midst of this, Mr. Thompson made an outrageous statement. This month's quota for Parker is 5 times last month's. If he can't achieve that, he's not needed in this company. That's unreasonable. Everyone else is just about meeting their quotas, but 5 times last month's. Nobody can achieve that, I objected. Mr. Thompson, I agree with Parker. Last month, Parker achieved more than double his quota and even received a President's Award, setting a quota of 5 times. Andrews chimed in. After all that confident talk, the moment an impossible task is set, you back down. Typical of a high school grad without the experience of college entrance exams. Mentally weak. It's not about being mentally weak. It's that a quota 5 times the usual is clearly unrealistic and impossible to achieve, I argued. If you can't even achieve 5 times the quota, then indeed, a high school graduate like you is useless. We don't need such people in our company, Thompson declared. With all due respect, even for a prestigious university grad like me, a quota 5 times the usual is too steep. It's not just about Parker being a high school grad. I believe everyone here feels the same. Hearing this, everyone in the office looked over with a mix of expressions. They probably pitied me, being tossed around by Mr. Thompson's whims. I started to feel fed up with the situation. After all the hard work I put in, more than anyone, why should I be subjected to this? The previous head, before Mr. Thompson, really appreciated my efforts, and he used to take me out for drinks at the end of every month. But ever since Mr. Thompson took over, the atmosphere in the department changed dramatically, favoring those with higher education. Thinking about all this, I couldn't hold back my emotions any longer, and Mr. Thompson made an unbelievable statement. Anyone who can follow my instructions doesn't belong in this company. I believe the world can be judged entirely by educational background, and those who don't agree with that can leave. That seems a bit extreme. I agree with Parker. Deciding everything based on education alone can impact the whole company. Parker may be a high school grad, but he has produced the best results. I forgot to mention, but even prestigious university grads who interfere with my opinions are not needed. If you're going to rebel, I'll take appropriate actions. Please don't drag Mr. Andrews into this. Why can't you accept that not everything can be judged solely by education, Mr. Thompson? I never said I don't recognize achievements other than educational background. That's why I told you to achieve 5 times the quota to earn my recognition. To me, education is that valuable. Even with high education, I doubt there's anyone in this company who can achieve 5 times their quota. You've been quite outspoken, but don't get too cocky just because you're well educated. Mr. Thompson's arrogant attitude was escalating. As a result, what started as targeting only me had now spread to Mr. Andrews, who had come to my defense. Thinking about it, I wondered if it would be better if I just disappeared. Maybe then Mr. Thompson would be satisfied, and his arrogance would diminish. I couldn't bear the thought of my colleagues, who had been friendly with me, feeling uncomfortable at work because of me. So, with a heavy heart, but having worked here for over 10 years, I decided to quit. Considering that my presence is worsening the situation of the company, I've decided to leave after today. Mr. Thompson has already made it clear I'm not needed here. Typical of a high school grad, not having experienced college entrance exams, you choose to run away when faced with a challenge like this. I thought you were stronger, but it's disappointing. Goodbye. Wait, Parker, are you serious? Please don't mind what Mr. Thompson said to me. The company losing you is a bigger damage than anything. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm sorry, especially after you defended me, but the quote of 5 times is indeed too harsh, so I'd have to leave either way. A guy with no prestigious university degree and no will to achieve results is really spineless. We don't need such people in our company. Why do you have to be so cruel? And if Parker leaves this company, I'm sure the sales will noticeably decline. Mr. Andrews, you don't understand. Our company won't change just because one person leaves. If anything, everyone will work even harder. With all due respect, if a top sales performer like Parker quits, it's likely everyone will start thinking that no matter how hard they work, they might get fired and start considering other job opportunities. Hearing this, Mr. Thompson seemed to ponder for a moment. Maybe not wanting to backtrack on his words, he didn't correct his statement. He probably thought the company wouldn't really be affected even if I left. Andrew's somewhat alarming statement seemed to have caught him off guard. Regardless, I was fully intent on leaving the company, so while Mr. Thompson looked worried, I began packing my belongings. Realizing I was serious, Mr. Thompson hurried over in a panic. "Wait a minute. What are you doing there? Since you told me to leave the company, I'm cleaning up. Maybe you should reconsider. If you quit now, you won't find another job easily, and you'll struggle without income. I'm the type who likes to save, so I've accumulated a fair amount. I'll live off that for a while, enjoying my time before I look for a new job. After all, it was you, Mr. Thompson, who told me to leave." "Parker, you're really leaving? I've always been under your wing and chasing your lead, so this is incredibly disappointing." "Thank you for saying that. Despite graduating from a prestigious university, you chose to follow a high school grad like me, and I appreciate it. I only went to university because my parents told me to. I actually admired you for your hard work despite being a high school grad." As Enruz and I had this conversation, it became clear how much the staff trusted me, and Mr. Thompson seemed to regret his words. But it was too late to go back, so he seemed to give up on me and appeared defiant. "If you're done packing, can you leave quickly? As long as you're here, time is passing, and everyone's working hours are being reduced." "Jess, thank you for everything. We might meet again somewhere, and if we do, I hope we can get along. Someone like you, a high school grad, meeting me, a highly educated individual, is impossible. We live in different worlds, and you don't understand that." "You don't have to say things like that. How can you say such things to someone who worked in the same company as you? If you don't like me, Enruz, you're also free to quit this company anytime." "That's..." "Mr. Enruz, thank you for everything. Don't worry about me. Please continue working here." I told him and decided to leave the company. It had been over 10 years at the company, so of course, I felt a sense of nostalgia, but I didn't want to work under Mr. Thompson. I'd rather work for a lower salary at another company than continue under Mr. Thompson. That's how stressful it was working under him. Stepping outside the company after resigning, I felt incredibly refreshed. My parents don't know yet that I've quit my job, so I'm wondering how to break the news to them. Lost in thought about how to tell my parents, I decided to watch a movie for a distraction and headed to the cinema. There, surprisingly, I ran into Mr. Johnson, an executive from the company I'd just left. Normally, I didn't interact much with him, but I had met him at a dinner last month after achieving more than double my quota and receiving the CEO's award. Feeling awkward as a now former employee, I tried to leave, but he noticed me and struck up a conversation. "Isn't that Parker? I thought you'd be working now. What are you doing here? You're not skimping on work, telling people you're out on business, are you? A person who won the CEO's award wouldn't have time to slack off watching movies. Then what are you doing here? And you tried to flee when you saw us. It sure looks like you were trying to slack off." It's hard to say, but I had a situation with Mr. Thompson, my manager, and I've decided to leave the company. "What do you mean? Why would a top performer like you suddenly leave the company?" Mr. Johnson, the executive, seemed incredibly surprised to hear that I had left the company. Given that I was a top performer until last month, receiving the CEO's award and expected to achieve even more, it's no surprise they were taken aback by my sudden resignation. Moreover, it's not like I had been planning to quit for a while or showed any signs of it. Last month, I worked harder than anyone, brimming with motivation. This changed the entire atmosphere of the company, and during the dinner with the executives, many of them expressed their gratitude towards me. So, for someone like me to quit so easily and end up at a movie theater, it must be baffling for them. Though I left, it was almost like I was forced to quit, leaving me disheartened. Meeting the executives in such a state created an odd atmosphere. Actually, my department got a new manager, Mr. Thompson, who has a strong belief in educational elitism. It seems he didn't like me because I'm a high school graduate. Even if Thompson values education above all and you're a high school grad, You were a top performer. There shouldn't be any complaints. I thought the same, and so did my colleagues. But the more I tried to convey this, the more agitated Mr. Thompson got. It almost spilled over to the other employees, so I decided to step back. It's a problem for us if Parker leaves the company. Sure, Thompson might be impressive academically, but comparing his performance with yours, Parker, you're the better performer. I'm glad to hear that, and it's an honor to be needed by the company, but I've already submitted my resignation. Let me handle this. Honestly, I had resigned so quickly and was worried about how to fund my father's treatment. This executive's offer was a relief. However, after what happened with Mr. Thompson, I didn't want to return to that office. I'd rather work for another company than go back. I might be able to handle the physical demands, but I felt it would take a toll on my mental health. As I was pondering this, the executive made a suggestion. Actually, the reason I'm here is that our company is venturing into movie-related business, and I came here for a meeting about that. I remember you mentioning the movie business at the dinner, so you were here for that. And now, I'm about to have a meeting about it. Would you like to join, Parker? I like movies, so I'm happy to hear this, but is it okay for someone who has already submitted their resignation to participate? Don't worry, it doesn't get processed immediately. I'll talk to HR to have it discarded. Join the meeting, and if you like it, consider becoming the project leader. But I was just a team leader before my resignation. Is it really okay for me to be a project leader for a new venture? I've always been impressed with your performance, and I've been thinking of assigning you bigger tasks, so this is a good opportunity. Plus, since you're a movie enthusiast, it makes it easier for me to entrust you with this. I never expected such an offer. I had interacted with various executives during the dinner and felt that there was some expectation for my future contributions. That's why, when Mr. Thompson said such things, causing me to quit, I felt depressed. If I had gone straight home after quitting, I would have just become unemployed without this chance encounter. Meeting the executive here felt like fate, so I decided to participate in the meeting. I thought I had nothing left to lose. If you think I'm suitable, I'd be honored to participate. I'll work hard to ensure you don't regret choosing me. I was a bit anxious about making such a sudden invitation, but hearing you say that, Parker, puts me at ease. I feel confident entrusting this job to you. Thank you for having such high expectations. I'll do my utmost not to let you down. Even so, this being your first time as a project leader, don't be too hard on yourself. If you encounter any issues, don't hesitate to rely on me. Thank you, that means a lot. I'll consult you about anything I'm unsure of and give my all to everything I can handle. I'm counting on you, Parker. As the executive said this and placed a hand on my shoulder, I felt an immense pressure. He wasn't intended to burden me, but rather a sign of genuine expectation. However, that expectation felt like a huge weight. Especially after being essentially forced to leave despite being the top performer in the company. If it weren't for that betrayal, I would have taken on this job with a much lighter heart. That's why I want to make the most of this situation, ignite my spirit, and work tirelessly to produce results. I aim to turn this venture into something well-known within the company, showing Mr. Thompson what I'm capable of. With these thoughts, I joined the executive for the meeting and was appointed the project leader. The project seemed more challenging than I had anticipated, but I felt incredibly motivated. Being tasked with a film-related venture in a company I loved felt almost like fate, especially considering my recent confrontation with Mr. Thompson. After a while as the project leader of the movie-related venture, I was invited to another dinner with the executives. "What's the reason for today's meeting?" I asked. "Don't be so nervous. Actually, the movie project is doing better than expected, and I'm planning to give a midterm report to the CEO. Reporting to the CEO. That's quite nerve-wracking as the project leader, but I believe in the work I've done and hope it will be recognized." As I said this, the executive handed me the documents related to the movie project. I had assumed the executive would be the one reporting, but it turned out I was to speak directly with the CEO. Rumors had it that our CEO was very particular about numbers, so the thought made me extremely nervous. With the fear that a negative response might jeopardize the entire project, I approached the CEO to hand over the documents. "I'm responsible for the movie-related project. Would you mind reviewing this report?" "Oh yes, I recall we have such a project," the CEO remarked while starting to scan the document I handed over. When his eyes reached the sales figures, he suddenly tossed the report aside. Disheartened, I wondered if I had failed to meet his expectations. "This is about the sales I had in mind. If this was the annual figure, I'd be considering whether to continue or not." "CEO, sorry to interrupt, but the sales figures in that report are for this month, not the year. If you multiply that by 12, it should give you an approximate annual revenue," I clarified. "What? If that's the case, it's a hugely successful project. Why didn't you say that sooner?" "I thought it was clear since it was marked as a monthly report. Plus, this project only started 3 months ago, so I expect it to grow even more." "You're the one in charge of this project, aren't you? You seem young, but this is truly impressive work. Thank you for your hard efforts for our company. It's an honor to receive such words from you. I won't just settle here. I aim to grow the project even further." When the CEO threw the report, I worried about what might happen, but his kind words brought a sense of relief, and tears welled up in my eyes. The stress of almost leaving the company and taking on my first project leadership role must have weighed on me more than I realized. Being recognized by the CEO felt like a release from everything. Being denied by Mr. Thompson over my educational background made the CEO's words even more meaningful. Since the start of this movie-related project, I had sacrificed my personal life, working tirelessly. As a result, I managed to generate a monthly revenue that the CEO mistook for annual figures. I was really worried for a while, but I'm so pleased to have achieved such results. I'm truly glad I entrusted the project to Parker. If you had left the company because of the way Thompson treated you, this project might not have been successful. Maybe I should thank Mr. Thompson then. By the way, haven't you heard about Thompson?" "No, what happened to him? I've been so focused on this project that I haven't heard anything." "Actually, evidence of embezzlement by Thompson was discovered, and he had to resign to take responsibility. So, even if you want to thank him, it's no longer possible." I had no idea that was going on. It was surprising to hear that Mr. Thompson, who had acted so arrogantly, had fallen into such a situation. The way he treated me was terrible, so I felt a bit relieved. If he had continued to rise in the company after forcing me out, it would have been a bitter pill to swallow. Though I ultimately decided to leave the company, it was almost as if I was pushed into it, and I never quite accepted it. It was only by a miraculous chance that I met the executive and stayed with the company, but the thought of leaving never left my mind for a second. Perhaps hearing about Mr. Thompson's situation cleared my mind. In the middle of the dinner, Mr. Thompson, looking frantic, barged into the venue. He seemed too flustered to notice my presence. "Excuse me for interrupting like this, but can my termination be reversed?" "Thompson, what are you doing here? Why is Parker here?" "Actually, the movie project was a big success, so the executives invited me to this dinner." "What is Parker leading another project in our company when I had him leave?" "I was the one who approached Parker. He's capable, so it seemed like a good fit." "Why am I being let go, while Parker is achieving so much?" While Thompson was fixated on educational background, Parker, despite being a high school grad, was accumulating achievements and working hard. That's the difference that led to this outcome. That can be. No matter how impressive your educational background is, embezzlement is a one-way to get out. At my words, Mr. Thompson was left speechless. Likely because the executives were present. However, after his embezzlement, his termination was inevitable, regardless of how he acted in front of the executives. They appeared dismayed by his self-centered actions. It wasn't surprising, considering he had embezzled company funds and then had the audacity to barge into a dinner asking for his job back. Anyway, Thompson's termination is final. Please reconsider. I promise never to embezzle again. I was wondering who was causing such a commotion, and it's Thompson, who embezzled our money. I remember your face from the photos my secretary showed me. CEO. How dare you misuse our company's money for personal gain? Don't think you'll get away with it. You'll repay every cent you embezzled. Can I continue working here to repay it? Enough with your selfish behavior. You will never work in this company again. Repay us with money earned elsewhere. It can't be. Thompson was sternly reprimanded by the president and banned from the company. Of course, his embezzlement wasn't forgiven, and he was required to repay all the misappropriated funds. However, it seemed he had spent all the company's money he transferred to his account, meaning he had to start earning from scratch. Meanwhile, I, who was initially harassed and forced out by Mr. Thompson, unexpectedly met the executive, earned recognition from the president, and became a valued member of the company, while Thompson's fortunes plummeted. When I thought I might leave the company, I was anxious about my future, but all the effort I had put in was recognized in the end. I'm really glad I entrusted you with the project leadership. By the way, I heard from one of the employees that your father is ill. Thank you for trusting me with this role. Yes, my father is hospitalized, so I've been supporting my family since joining the company after high school. Thompson wasn't aware of your situation and it's my fault too for not sharing it. Knowing your circumstances, we'll try to accommodate as much as possible. What do you mean? I understand you're worried about your father, but we can't have it affecting your work. To give you some breathing room, we'll increase your salary. Really? Thank you so much. We owe you a lot, Parker. We're counting on you to continue doing great work for our company. Absolutely, I'll give it my all. True to the executive's word, my salary significantly increased. With the raise, I was finally able to afford the treatment my father needed, and fortunately, he fully recovered. The treatment required considerable time and money, but thanks to the executive's support, we faced no issues. My parents were incredibly grateful, and for the first time, I felt truly glad to have started working straight after high school. Having always been self-conscious about not having a college degree, being recognized and successful at the company, and receiving gratitude from my parents, made it all worthwhile. I think if I hadn't been appreciated at work and by my parents, I would have regretted not going to college and living with a label of a high school graduate for the rest of my life.